Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
A very good afternoon to everyone, and good morning to my friends from the Pacific and the West Coast. It's absolutely fabulous having everyone here for what is bound to be a very intriguing session on AI, specifically dedicated for the finance and accounting professionals. My name is Malay Upadhyay, and I'm the CMO at SalesChoice, an AI SaaS predictive and prescriptive analytics company for B2B sales teams. What you're looking at is the Predictive AI World, a forum that we have used to bring in a whole lot of educational content and plenty of resources in collaboration with industry leading experts across a range of topics on how to best leverage AI, not only for sales and marketing, but across the organization. You can access these on any of these links on your screen right now, or just go to saleschoice.com/resources. Today, joining me as the co-host is the CEO and founder of SalesChoice, Dr. Cindy Gordon. And we will together be interviewing and asking questions of our most esteemed guest, Catherine Dahl. She is the CEO and founder of Beanworks, which is an industry-leading accounting automation software company. She's a CPA, CMA with 25 plus years of experience, and she has been instrumental in scaling the company, which means she brings in tons of expertise and practical knowledge that can actually be helpful for you. With her many board positions and volunteer efforts, she is someone we are proud to have today, and I would like to welcome her now in terms of this engaging discussion that I can hardly wait to begin. So, Catherine, welcome.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
We are glad to have you with us as well. So with that, I would like to turn things over to Dr. Cindy Gordon. She is, as I mentioned, the CEO and founder of SalesChoice with tons of experience at tier one organizations worldwide, a former VC, author of 14 books, and my esteemed colleague and friend. So Cindy, over to you.
Thanks, Malay. And again, Catherine, welcome. And those of you on the line, and actually, I think we had one guest also from France. So welcome to our European colleagues. This topic is a very interesting one. We're going to dive into this pretty quickly. Catherine and I did quite a bit of pre-planning for this session, but we really want to make this a conversation. We encourage you, if you've got questions, to basically put those in, and we'll have a chance at the end to look at those and then respond. I'm going to start by just very briefly talking about AI and just in terms of the growth of the industry. Most of this is going to be a conversation where I'm actually interviewing Catherine on specific questions, and we'll both have color commentary back and forth. Just imagine that we're all together, and imagine we're all sitting in France having a nice glass of wine, sitting around a nice kitchen table. So that's kind of the collegiality we want to have in this session. We are going to talk about some specific use cases, and what I mean by that are some specific examples of where AI is being applied within finance and accounting areas, both areas that Catherine's very passionate about, I'm very passionate about, and for you being there, obviously you're here because you're very interested either to learn or you're doing something amazing. So feel free to let us know if you've got a project as well, and if you're open to that, we'd just love to know what your thoughts are and your experiences. So in terms of the market, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at anything these days. It doesn't matter what newspaper you're reading, whether it's the New York Times, the Globe, or Reddit. The amount of volume of content on AI is very significant. The latest reports are that in terms of the growth of the overall market, it used to be growing at a GDP growth of about 45%, but the recent some of the stats and some of the categories, we're getting up to levels of 60% growth rates. Now, obviously, that's in the very specific area. The overall economic growth is certainly not running at that overall, trajectory. Will we see a slowdown in venture capital moving into this market? There's been a lot of saturation. We'll see more of that over the next, I think, 3 to 6 months. But essentially, the effort to get underway here has been really enabled as a result of the incredible growth of cloud computing and the data processing enablement, being able to handle billions and literally of transactions. And as quantum computing starts to move into the industry, then essentially we'll take another lift up. So we are moving into a world and reality where sense making, pretty well in everything, whether it's business or leisure, has the opportunity for an AI affiliation. So this market is the biggest we've ever seen in the tech sector. It makes the explosion of the personal computer look very minuscule, and I think that's the way you should look at it. Imagine you're on the beach, your personal computers came in, the amount of kind of congestion maybe we felt, people working through who should have a smart computer or not, and all of the dialogue that went on there and security. And just imagine that this is a tsunami wave in comparison to just sitting on the beach with, so that's how big what's happening here with the integration points in this field. So in terms of what is AI, and I apologize, it went in the wrong direction, just very succinctly, AI is simply a broad term for many, many disciplines that can be collected under the AI arena. But the whole objective is to power with technologies to really perceive the environment, take action, in many ways be a sense-making technology capability to mimic human intelligence, and more importantly, hopefully increase the interactions, increase the predictions, produce an outcome, that we can't easily do. So the whole aspect of data comes into play because AI is only as good as what you feed it. So it's very, very important that as your organizations that you've got highly representative data relevant to the use case that you're trying to solve. Ensure that there's no bias in that data set, because as the laws continue to unfold, there will be legal risks, certainly on that front, in terms of data bias and diversity and inclusiveness, I think as well will start to show some constraints. So about 70% of your effort in getting these projects underway is going to have to be on the data acquisition, the data assembly, the data processing, the data methods, determining the algorithms that you're going to use. So that whole sensing of enablement is probably like the most important step from a risk management point of view, because if you get that right, your risks are low. If you don't get that right, your risks are higher. And as you continue on, obviously you want to get to the stage that you've got the good quality sense making to derive the understanding, to have an accurate prediction, and more importantly, the so what. Based on that insight, what do you do? So the recommendations that can come forth here will require more human thinking, but obviously as these systems evolve, we will see more guided learning and more prescriptive insights that move beyond predictive analytics to prescriptive. And obviously at the end of the day, that whole learning cycle is probably the area that's got more complexity, because depending on the methods you use, you could be using an unsupervised learning approach, which essentially the algorithms keep learning on their own and producing recommendations, but that's very much black box. And supervised learning really has a lot of checks and balances. So I think really be clear about the risks you want to take on the different methods. AI won't necessarily advise you of which method, although I expect in time the algos will tell you, I'm not a good algo for this problem. So I do expect some humor as I think the market evolves. In terms of the overall trajectory, I find that in the financial area, most of the CFOs, whether it's small, mid, or large, they've all had their teeth cut on business intelligence, BI. They live and breathe reports, and many reports. But often those reports are in the rear view. They're looking at historicals, patterns, or trends, and then doing the sense making to go forward. Obviously, this whole generation of AI is to start challenging us on why we're spending so much time looking in the rear view mirror, because the relevancy and the timeliness of that isn't giving us the foresight that these other kinds of technologies can. So that's, I think, a real growth opportunity for financial executives to start to lead more in advanced analytics and start to real challenge all of the cost that's going into BI enablement, because it is an old technology. And I think the sooner we recognize that 80% of what we know has very limited relevancy, given the speed that the markets are changing, our customer needs are changing, and we need to change, in that as well. This gives you a framework, simple but powerful, because the evolution's moving from the operational analytics side. Predictive analytics, essentially doing the sense make to predict an outcome, mainly using certain branches of AI, which is called predictive analytics, and there's a whole many different types of approaches there. But essentially, you've got a problem, you feed it data, and it will give you foresight to the future on different use cases. The prescriptive side is the one that is always more interesting, harder to do because you've got to get your predictive layer built first, but that allows you to start doing guided intelligence, if this, then this. So if you think of anomaly detection, which in fraud finance people are pretty familiar with, or credit risk, then you know what you need to do in relationship to that risk and what the actions, and obviously that also can be programmed you know, with AI as well. The bigger play is going to be in the cognitive analytics side, which is another branch, which you start getting into deeper approaches in AI, kind of that deep learning space. But also you really start getting into the sense making of all the algorithms across different process domains, so they actually start informing each other. And there's a whole branch of science called genetic algorithms that are basically starting to, you know, co-create with one another. And that's an area that's really interesting scientifically, but obviously still very much in its infancy stages. So we're quite a ways away from, you know, that kind of capability. But as you build your strategies, you should be aware of, you know, the overall evolution is going to happen here in capability over honestly the next 10 years. So if you have a chance to leapfrog ahead, it's probably in your best interest to start experimenting earlier versus later. I was very excited to read the PwC report. If you haven't seen it, it's pretty easy to find. Just type in Rise of the Financial Leader Skills and Advanced Analytics on Mr. Google or Ms. Google, I guess, depending if it's a Googler or Googie. Got a giggle. I've been up since 5 this morning, been an early day. But what is interesting is the general position is that the amount of risk in this area is going to absolutely require more risk management. We obviously know that in the security side, the incredible focus on cybersecurity, but also it's the opportunity to take an organizational wrapper around all analytics, because at the end of the day, they're informing the organization. I think the CFOs have an opportunity to really step up into these fields and on the advanced analytics and AI. However, they need to get themselves trained pretty quickly because there's a lot of people vying for those kinds of roles. But I think that that's an area where CFOs have a chance to evolve, to lead, and quite frankly can bring a lot of brilliance, because there is obviously mathematical roots in algorithms. So I want to move, that was just kind of a bit of a setup starter, probably was talking too quickly, but just to let you know in summary, big market, high growth, fun time for all of you in finance, and it's time to move into the new world. It's not going away. So Catherine, I'm so happy that you're here. I wish we were sitting together, but I'm just imagine, rather than a glass of wine, let's just pretend we're someplace warm, because those of you on the line from France, we're in Canada, in their coldest winter in the history of, I think, Canada. But Catherine, what are you seeing right now with your clients in leveraging advanced analytics, particularly around workflow intelligence, because you guys are really world-class experts in this field, and also, how are financial leaders getting ready for AI, or are they?
Well, thanks, Cindy. I appreciate that. I'll have to imagine that I'm drinking a glass of wine instead of my Coke Zero while doing this with you. And it did snow here yesterday, which is also not a good thing for Vancouver. So I'm with you on the let's have this winter over. Yes, so I love the topic of AI, because we are leveraging small portions of it now in our platform, but moving into that space ourselves and getting ourselves strategically positioned to capitalize on the AI trend and the information that is already in our system that our customers are using daily, that allows them to make better business decisions. And we want to be able to empower them even further, which is really our mandate, is to empower the accounting team. So it's kind of a new space, but it's also interesting to see that the laggard industry of accounting has a really good opportunity to leverage a newer technology sooner than it normally would. Although we are very risk-averse folks, CPAs, so there's that whole risk assessment piece is also very important. In terms of advanced analytics and workflow intelligence, I think that is just finally coming to the accounting space. There's certainly been BI tools in the market space that connect into ERPs. For the last maybe 5 or 6 years, those are starting to really show some strong advancements in the cloud space. Workflow intelligence is where our platform sits, and we are bringing in AI technologies into that. But I would say in general, most accounting teams are still leveraging 35-year-old technology on the desktop. 80% of our customer base, if not more, are still using, ACPAC, Sage 300 now, or Great Plains or QuickBooks Desktop. There is a bigger, stronger move in the lower markets, the smaller business markets, but the middle market, where NetSuite and Tax sit, there's a movement to cloud and movement, therefore, to some of these more advanced technologies. But really, they're slow to get there. It's going to probably pick up, I would think, over the next few years. But I would say the majority of the technology that are in the CFO office right now are very much manual processes leveraging minimal amounts of computer technology, not really putting any AI in there just yet.
So what are your thoughts on the anomaly detection side? I'm just curious in terms of, looking through all of the transactions and just doing anomaly detection in terms of accounting and risk. And I think that side's maturing a little bit faster. I'm just like your thoughts on that.
I think it's still an emerging market. It is definitely needed. Anomaly detection is not baked into most, like I said, most of the platforms people are on were built 35 years ago, and they're single database. They're not cloud-based. They're challenging to work with, and it's very disparate. It's very industry specific. A lot of accounting systems are based on the industry you're in because it was desktop oriented. As we move into the Sage Intacct, NetSuite kind of world, Acumatica, there's an opportunity there for that to change, but it's still it's a light touch. So there are add-on products that I've seen in the marketplace for anomaly detection. In fact, I met a consultant years ago who's doing it through an Excel spreadsheet. So not really using AI, but more of a formula-based version. But that is where what I really see is a huge disruption coming in the audits, in the world of audits. And anomaly detection is really sort of in the audit field. Having to pay $30,000, $40,000 to have a manual audit done in your books when AI could do it in a few seconds. That's really where the future is going to come, but we're a ways away from it. I think it's very early days. There's very few products out there right now. You're aware of some of them as well, but there's not dozens and dozens of AI tools for anomaly detection at the moment.
That's really, really helpful. I guess there'll certainly be some disruption in terms of the survivability of many software players and platforms. It takes time to move out infrastructure, right, and the costs of that, and also the educational side that we continue to see. Thank you for that, Catherine.